Yo, what's going on, you guys? It's your boy Bill Mahari here, represent Mahari Nation Sports Podcast. Much love to the entire LDBC. Um, just a quick announcement for you guys. I've decided to move my basketball conversation show from Friday nights. Now it's going to be moved to Saturday nights at the same time, 9 p.m. Central Time. But we're going to do it on Saturday nights. Because I realized that I got a lot of work to do over the next couple of weeks. So we're gonna move it to on Saturdays. Try to give it a little bit more flexibility. You know what I'm saying? So just stick with me on Saturday nights at 9 p.m. Central Time. Okay. So I wanted to do this particular video about the whole Skip Bayless, comments that he made to Dak Prescott yesterday. But I had to listen in to pretty much understand and get the vibe of what Skip Bayless was pretty much was saying in his comments. Um, but the bottom line is this: Skip Bayless, completely crossed the line when he made those comments about Dak Prescott. Now, so here's where it all stems from. Okay, um, Dak Prescott, pretty much have been battling clinical depression over the last couple of months, and you can pretty much say over the last couple of years. Um, his mother, Dak's mother, I should say, died of colon cancer back in 2013, and his brother, at the time, was also was already was suffering from the same issue when he decided to kill himself in his own home in Texas back in April. And he was going through a lot of dark periods in his life. And you could pretty much feel for him and understand what he was going through at the time. But Skip Bayless decides, whatever the reason in his mind, which I'm going to get into that in a second, decides to pretty much say that, that Dak Prescott admitted that he was struggling with mental issues was basically a sign of weakness. And the fact that he's the quarterback of America, see the sport is that he plays as a dog eat dog. It is no compassion, no quarter given on the football field. And if you publicly reveal any little weakness, it can affect the team's ability to believe in you in the toughest spot. And pretty much people all over the sports media world and on social media, of course, pretty much took the task of basically ripping Skip Bayless to shreds. But did Skip Bayless apologize about it? No, he did not. He pretty much doubled down on what he said by pretty much saying that his comments were basically misconstrued and that he only meant that Prescott should have sought help when he first started not feeling well depressed during that no novel period of the coronavirus and not waited. Like, bro, that's just an excuse to me. Skip Bayless meant what he said, okay? But again, do I am I not that's am I surprised that Skip Bayless would say something outlandish like that? No, because here's the thing. When I was studying at the University of Minnesota, when I was studying journalism, okay, I had the liberty and the task to pretty much learn and understand a lot of different journalists and a lot of their writing styles. Um, what Skip Bayless's writing style is that he likes to, take certain major elements of the truth and try to, bend certain key elements there and try to, manipulate some of the storylines in there to try to, bring in the readers in to really get into his stories. Okay. And he pretty much been doing that, since when he began, working in the journalism industry when he pretty much graduated from Vanderbilt University. Um, when he worked for the Miami Herald, then he worked for the LA Times in '76, in which he was known for, for his best investigative stories. You know what I'm saying? And then worked, and then he was more known when he was working for the Dallas Morning News, and then worked for the Times Herald. All right, and he was famous for covering the Dallas Cowboys pretty much when Tom Landry was pretty much on his final years, and then the Jerry Jones era, which preceded the Jimmy Johnson, and when we kept winning their championships. But he wrote three different books when he was covering the Cowboys. First off, the book in '89, which pretty much talked about Tom Landry and the rise and fall of the Cowboys in the following years of Tom Landry's coaching career. Then he wrote another book in '93 about about their first year winning the championship. Okay, but the one book that he wrote the most that was so notorious for was a book called Hell Bent: The Crazy Truth About Win or Else Dallas Cowboys. Okay, and the book was centered around the ongoing, dispute and feud between then Cowboys quarterback Troy Aikman and then Cowboys coach Barry Switzer. And what drew a lot of the speculation from that book was that it was basically, speculated by Switzer and some of the people close to him that felt that Troy Aikman was basically homosexual. I'll pretty much say it like that, so I don't get flagged for that. And there were a lot of people in the media industry that really did not like what Skip Bayless pretty much wrote. Most of it was pretty. There were some that called it yellow journalism at its worst. It was pretty much writing another fictional book or something like that. He was not well received. Although there were some people in the industry that did praise the book, it was not well received. Let's just put it that way. Then he worked as the Chicago Tribune there, and then pretty much worked along the lines of ESPN there too for about 3 to 4 decades, and pretty much hired him full time when he was working on Cold Pizza before it was called ESPN First Take. But the thing with Skip Bayless is that his style of debating is that he likes to make personal attacks on certain people that he feels in his mind that do not meet up to what his standard is as a professional athlete. You see him, constantly attacking LeBron James, constantly attacking Aaron Rodgers, all sorts of different type of athletes. Okay, but when you find a way to dig up some dirt on him, then Skip Bayless becomes shorter mentally. Just look back to what Jalen Rose did when he basically revealed what his real basketball stats were. All right. And looked at the expression of Skip's face when he gets exposed like that in front of the entire masses. All right. That's the way you try to attack Skip Bayless. Okay. When you try to debate him. But let's stick on the subject in hand here. Okay. For Skip Bayless, for somebody that is known about issues of mental health in his family, because remember, his mother struggled with alcoholism all her life, which eventually led to her death. So for Skip Bayless to pretty much make those comments is very insensitive and very hypocritical. And another thing too is he's worked in the journalism industry for decades. He's known a lot of different athletes that have gone through gone through mental health issues. Okay, like Pete Maravich, one of the great scorers and one of the greatest showmen in basketball history, struggled with clinical depression all his life, and then it got worse over time when basically his mother killed himself. I should say killed herself. And pretty much after basketball was pretty much over with, he struggled with alcoholism. And, he was trying to change his life, but ultimately his heart gave out on him when he basically died at the age of 40. All right. Then Jerry West. Jerry West, since his 20s, had struggled with clinical depression, every single day. And when you look back at that week when Kobe Bryant, died of that helicopter crash, Jerry West was torn apart in a way that I've never seen him torn apart before. It felt like as if he lost one of his kids. You know what I mean? And I said to myself on my Facebook page, I said, somebody please watch it after Jerry West because he's had heart issues, he's had all sorts of different health issues all his life, and it would be a shame that something would happen to him over this. So yeah, another person that struggled with that though too is that here's another recent example. Paul Pierce. All right. Remember back in 2001, Paul Pierce was actually out in a nightclub with several of his teammates. Okay. And basically he was with a girl that another guy that, saw it, didn't like it at all. And then proceeded to decide to stab the man, I should say stab Pierce 11 times in the face, the neck, and the back. And plus, he had a bottle smashed over his head. All right. And he was immediately rushed to the hospital by, Tony Petit and his brother at the time. All right. And had to go emergency surgery to repair the lung, to repair a punctured lung. All right. He could have died from that attack. All right. And he admitted back in August of 2018 that he struggled with depression a year after the stabbing, which which also translated to paranoia over crowd noise or post, and also went to post-traumatic stress disorder after the incident. So for Skip Bayless to make an insensitive comment like that, it's like, bro, you should know more than that way. But I know why he kind of said it, because Skip Bayless, began his writing career in the 70s, and the 70s was pretty much a different time. Pretty much in the 70s, mental health and having conversations about mental health was the not the most popular topic to discuss, and most times you would be shamed for even bringing that up. Because the mentality is that, hey, you're a grown man, you need to deal with it. Keep your chin up. Don't reveal your feelings. Don't cry. Grown men do not cry and all that stuff. And through through the course of how society has changed over time with the issue of mental health, I think now there's much more of an understanding and much more of a willingness to open up on it. Okay, and particularly when it comes to Black people too, I know that mental health is still a stigma in our community, and we gradually made the necessary steps to make it into an understanding that this is something we need to deal with, but we're still a long way to go on that particular thing. But for Skip Bayless, man, like, bro, you knew exactly what you said, and for your network, Fox Sports, to pretty much come out with a statement that pretty much defend Dak Prescott, pretty much tells you that Skip Bayless was in the wrong all the way. And I will tell you this: there were a lot of people at ESPN that did not like Skip Bayless. And when I read Scott Van Pelt, who was a longtime anchor for Sports Center, pretty much blasting, Skip Bayless while not saying his name about Dak Prescott overcoming, mental health issues, pretty much goes to show you how much he was not well liked in ESPN. They kind of respected his work and what he was able to do in the journalism industry, but they viewed Skip Bayless as an arrogant person who's supposed to be a know-it-all type of person that puts off a bad vibe in front of people. And when he left in 2016, I read numerous articles where former colleagues that worked with him or knew of him did not miss the opportunity to basically crap all over him. And if can you imagine if Stephen A. Smith said those things verbatim, he would have been fired on the spot. All right. You know what I'm saying? Now, look, do I expect Fox Sports to even fire him or suspend him? No, I don't. And considering that his contract is due to expire soon, I expect Fox Sports to pretty much resign him to a longer term deal and let him continue to run undisputed until he feels like he doesn't want to do it anymore. Because now this is where it's coming down to, you guys, that people want to draw out controversy for ratings. All right. And even during the pandemic period, okay, even during the pandemic period, a lot of these talk shows were worried about not having sports because they were worried about running out of content. Let's make something very, very clear, okay? I'm just a small channel. I only have 800 and what, 46, 47 subscribers. I do hope to reach to 100, to 1,000 within the next couple of months, but you never know. And I know I will get there. But for me, I have no problem talking about other subjects, either if it's politics, Eritrean issues, or something relating to NFL, NBA history, or NFL history, or baseball. Any subject, if I feel like I want to talk about on my channel, I have the right to do that. But when it comes to mainstream media, they're pretty much controlled on a narrative. All right, they had to generate stories to create ratings. All right, what I learned from journalism is that you're supposed to stand by the truth. All right. And there are still a lot of good journalists out there that do that. All right. I'm not going to crap on them at all. I have some people that I went to college with that are really good journalists that preach the truth more than anything else. All right. And following up on your sources and making sure that the story is accurate as possible. But people like Skip Bayless make things very, very hard on the good people in journalism because the good people that do their job and do their due diligence, they are the ones who spend hours on end calling people, talking to people, making sure you get the accurate quotes possible to complete your stories. Because if you don't have a quote, you don't have no story. And for people like Skip Bayless to make these kind of comments like that really castrates a very negative light on the journalism industry. You know what I'm saying? And he knew exactly what he was doing. All right. And it's just really, really disgusting that he would take that kind of route considering his own life. All right. But I think it comes from that kind of 70s mentality there. You know what I mean? That you had to be a man. A grown man should not reveal their weakness. That kind of thing. So the thing with mental health for personally for me is that, you know, I'm a Special Olympic athlete. Okay. And when I played basketball for at least 10 plus years, I played with and against athletes with various physical and mental issues. All right. Some of them that had trouble adjusting to normal society, that can't even hold a simple job for at least 3 weeks because of those issues. Right. So I will not lie to you when I pretty much would tell you that I felt disgusted on what Skip Bayless said. Like, bro, do you understand that people cannot have people are always going to be built like superheroes? All right, athletes are not built as like super freaks. All right, they're human just like you and me. You know what I mean? And you of all people should know what the term mental health is around in sports, right? And people like Mickey Mantle and Billy Martin struggle with alcoholism all their lives, which led to their deaths, right? Ric Flair, Ric Flair, he's still living, but last couple of years he's been in poor health. But if you read the stories about Ric Flair kept drinking like different types of alcohol every time when he was on out on the road, as a full-time active wrestler, right? It's amazing that he still has a functioning liver of all the alcohol he was able to consume in his body and still perform in wrestling. But yeah, how about in the NFL? Dave Durson, Junior Seau, that pretty much killed themselves because they were pretty much couldn't stand it, living through a headache all the time. That they can't love their families as much because their brains have been turned to mush through all the years of football. Like, for Skip Bayless to make that comment initially at Dak Prescott is like, bro, you know better. You've seen that throughout your entire journalism career. You know that personally because your mother went through alcoholism, and you still make that comment. I mean, just not smart. And I will tell you this: Skip Bayless may not regret it now, but trust me, there will be a time in a place that you're going to really reflect back at that period of time, and he's going to look back with a sincerity of regrets. You know what I'm saying? Because not every person is built like a Superman. All right, not every person can't deal with their issues by themselves. They just need help along the way to deal with what they're going through in their minds. So I salute Dak Prescott for doing what he had to do to go through, to overcome those mental health issues, because they're not easy. Trust me, they're not. And that's just pretty much how I feel about it, man. And Skip Bayless, you know, made it an arrogant mistake, and I'm glad people took the task to rip him for it, because he fully truly deserves it. But tell me what you guys think in the comment section.